Okay. 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 All right. So let's continue. So now we have looked at the Buddha and Dhamma. So next one up is the Sangha, of course. And so the Sangha then are those people who understand that Dhamma coming from the Buddha, who understand it in the same way that the Buddha understands it. And it is not at all obvious why that would be possible. Yeah, remember the way that the Buddha, when he started out, he thought no one is going to understand this anyway, so why should I bother teaching these teachings? That was kind of the initial idea. And you can see why, because this is so profound. There is no obvious reason why it should be possible to communicate this to someone else in a way that they can understand it. And in the suttas, this is sometimes called the Anusasana Patiharya. I think it's Patiharya. And that means the miracle or the wonder of instruction. And this, in a way, is the highest of all wonders, the highest of all miracles. Is the miracle that the wonder that when you teach someone else, they can also understand. This is like astonishing. Why should that be possible? And there's a very nice thing in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first sutta of the Buddha, the setting in motion the wheel of the Dhamma. And this is where the Buddha gives these first teachings, maybe over a period of time, over a few days or something. And then at the end of a certain teaching, then as Anya, or as Kondanya is one of the first 5 disciples, he is listening to the teachings, and he becomes a stream enterer. Yeah, he sees what the Buddha saw. And then when that happens, the Buddha says, Anyasi vatabo kondanyo, Anyasi vatabo kondanyo. Vatabo means like indeed, or wow, or amazing. It's like this, this surprise. It's like Kondanya understands, says the Buddha, as if, this was not to be expected, as if he is almost surprised that these teachings actually work. Yeah, so this is kind of how it is not at all obvious. First of all, it is not obvious that the Buddha should be able to express and articulate these teachings. And secondly, even if they are articulated, it is not obvious that it will give rise to other people understanding it. But this is actually what happens. And so all of these things are kind of much more remarkable than you think they may be. And in a sense, you can understand that, because you can understand, even though we are all practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, you recognize how actually it is not, everyone here is not an arahant yet, right? So these things are quite involved. They're not difficult perhaps, but they are involved. It actually is quite challenging to be able to practice this path all the way to the end. And so this is kind of the arising of the Sangha, coming out of that the words and the articulation of the Buddha, and it's not at all obvious why it would be the case. But then once they understand them, then anyone who is an Arya, a noble person, has the same understanding as the Buddha, the same insight into the nature of reality, understands the world in the same way. They're not yet fully purified necessarily, but at least they have that understanding. And this is then the Aryan Sangha arising in the world. So I want to talk a little bit about the Aryan Sangha. I want to talk about it, first of all, so you can find some inspiration when you meet maybe some of these people. Also, I want you to be able to have some idea what these things are, so you can recognize for yourself. Maybe one day you have some deep insight. Wow, what happened? Is this it, or is it not? Some idea what these things mean. But more importantly, when you understand what the Noble Sangha is, you also can understand who is worthy of respect in this world, who is worthy of confidence and faith, where you should place that faith. That becomes more obvious once you understand the qualities that make someone a noble person. So let's discuss this a little bit. And so to be able to discuss this, I will just go to another sutta, which I haven't included in here, but the reason I haven't included because I didn't think of including it. I just did, I kind of put them together fairly quickly, these suttas, I have to confess. So now there's no sheet you can read from her. That's good. Yeah, you can just listen. Yeah, sometimes too many things, too much paper actually gets in the way anyway. So now you just have to listen. And sometimes that's preferable. So let's see what happens. I'm not even going to tell you which sutta, because I know as soon as I tell you which sutta, you're going to go and look it up, and then you will. So I'll tell you later on which sutta it is. So I'm not going to keep it secret forever. So this sutta is about the qualities of the stream enter. It's one of the very few suttas that have these qualities, and so I want to. For that reason, we will look at it. Where are we? Okay. Okay, so this is one of the first qualities of the stream enter, someone who has seen the Dhamma. And so it says here, someone goes to the forest, or to the root of a tree, or to an empty hut, and they consider this or thus. Is there any obsession in me that might obsess my mind so that I cannot see things as they actually are? Yeah, do I have any obsession? In other words, any defilement, any problem in the mind that blocks me from seeing things as they actually are? Sensual desire is an obsession, if your mind is obsessed by that. Ill will is an obsession when your mind is obsessed by that. Sloth and torpor, tiredness and lethargy is an obsession of the mind if your mind is obsessed by that. Restlessness and remorse is an obsession of the mind when your mind is obsessed with that. Doubt is an obsession when your mind is obsessed with that. Speculation about the world is an obsession when your mind is obsessed with that. Speculation about the other world, in other words about rebirth, etc., is an obsession when your mind is obsessed with that. If a bhikkhu takes to quarreling, brawling, and being deep in disputes, stabbing others with verbal daggers. You know the verbal daggers, they're very painful, right? Then your mind is obsessed. And so the obsessions here are the 5 hindrances, plus too much interest in the world and speculating about this and that and thinking about philosophy and having arguments about things, etc. Yeah, so it's not a good idea to stab each other with verbal daggers. That's a bad idea. And so these are the obsessions of the mind. And we know that when these things are in the mind, sometimes we can't get rid of them. They are kind of stuck there, and we try and it doesn't work, and we don't know what to do, and we can't get out of these things. And so this is the difference then between the ordinary person and the stream enterer. When a stream enterer goes on a retreat, they says he gone to the root of a tree, gone to an empty hut. This is basically like going on a retreat, withdrawing from the world. Then those obsessions disappear. They disappear naturally because their mind is always, to some extent, leaning towards the Dhamma. And because it is always leaning towards the Dhamma, these things don't have a hold on the mind of a stream enterer. So you will know that if you are a stream enterer, you will enter meditation quite easily. Whenever you withdraw from the world, you will enter samadhi, you will achieve the jhanas. This is one of those signposts that you have an understanding of the Dhamma. This is very, very useful to know, because sometimes in the world we talk about vipassana and samatha, and some people say, I'm no good with samatha, but vipassana, I'm really good with insight, I can do that part. But if you have real insight, you will also have samatha. And the reason is because you understand the Dhamma, the mind leans towards that Dhamma. You understand suffering, and so your mind goes away from the things that are suffering, and it goes to those things that are happiness, because you understand. Yeah, so the more insight you have, the more samatha you have. Yeah, this is kind of just the nature of things, because you know where dukkha is, you know, so you let it go. You don't want to hold on to dukkha. If you have a hot coal in your hands, are you going to hold it, or are you going to let it go? You're going to let it go, otherwise you are really stupid. Yeah, so no one is that stupid. But when it comes to the things of the world, well, everyone is a little bit stupid usually. And so you let it go. So samatha and vipassana always go hand in hand. The way to measure how much insight you have is to find out how deep your meditation is. How good is your samadhi? That's how you know how deep your insight is. Because insight is very difficult to measure otherwise. If you think, I see impermanence, I kind of watching things arise and passing away, it's very easy to be deluded about that, because there isn't any clear measure for how much you understand. But when it comes to peace and samadhi, there is a clear measure. You know that I'm getting peaceful. You know how deep that peace is, especially if you have some experience with meditation. If you have some idea what a jhana is, you have some idea to what extent your mind is peaceful in that direction. So this is a measure of stream entry, how still your mind is. That is very interesting, because that's not usually how you get to hear how we think about these things. So check out the depth of your meditation. Then you have some idea. You can see how speculation about the world is a bad thing. This is kind of what I was talking about before. When you are interested in the Dhamma, when you have right view, you don't think about the world anymore. You don't think about everything that's happening in your life, which has nothing to do with the Dhamma. So that is number one of these qualities of a stream enter. The stream enter understands, it says here, that there is no obsession in my mind that might obsess me, so that I cannot know and see things as they actually are. My mind is well disposed for awakening to the truth. This is the first knowledge attained by that person that is noble, supramundane, lokuttara, not shared by ordinary people. So that is number one. Again, a noble disciple considers thus: when I pursue, develop, and cultivate this view that I have, do I again obtain serenity? Do I obtain quenching? Serenity here, I think, is samatha. Quenching is nibbutto. Nibbutto means it's just another word for nibbana almost. So when I develop and cultivate this view, what does that mean? It means that you reflect on it and you develop it in your mind. Yeah. So when you sit down, you go on retreat, and you reflect according to the Dhamma, what happens? Do you become still and serene? Do you become quenched? Quenched is just another way of saying that defilements are gone. Do you attain samatha? In other words, is your mind leaning towards samadhi, leaning towards all of these things? Yeah, so you know when you reflect on the Dhamma, you become peaceful automatically. Yeah. You become nibbutto, you become quenched of defilements. Basically, you're moving towards nibbana. So is that happening or not? That is kind of the question. And again, the close proximity between insight or vipassana and samatha is very clear in these kind of expressions. Because you have that deep vipassana, you also have deep samatha as a consequence. He understands, or they understand, he or she understands, when I pursue, develop and cultivate this view, I personally do obtain serenity. I personally obtain quenching. This is the second knowledge attained by that person that is noble, supramundane, not shared by ordinary people. Supramundane is lokuttara, means beyond the world. That's literally what it means, outside of the world. You leave the world behind. You are kind of above the world, looking down. And you are kind of standing, you have this vantage point from outside of the world. And that's what you are seeing here. Number 3, again, a noble disciple considers thus: is there any other recluse or Brahmin or ascetic or Brahmin outside of here is the Buddha's teaching, possessed of a view such as I have. And then they understand there is no ascetic or Brahmin outside of here, outside of Buddhism, possessed of a view such as I possess. This is the third knowledge attained by that person. There isn't any view. It's impossible to be outside of Buddhism and to have the same kind of view. That is what it's saying here. You know that one of those sayings that the Buddha in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, just before he passes away, this wanderer called Subhadda, he comes to the Buddha, and Subhadda asks the Buddha, well, you know, all of these other teachings, all of these other religions, is there anyone there who is a noble person? I think they call it the first samana, second samana, third samana, and the fourth samana. Samana is like the ascetics. Do they exist outside of Buddhism? And then he talks about the various teachers in ancient India, and the Buddha replies. The Buddha doesn't say, no, there's no one like that. He doesn't say that. What he says is that wherever you find the Noble Eightfold Path, that is where you find these ascetics. That's where you find the noble people. And so, and that Noble Eightfold Path is found. Other religions may have it, a little bit of it, but they don't have it fully. Why is that? Because it begins with the right view. And right view, if you have that, well, basically you become the Buddha. That's kind of what you become if you have that right view. And anyone who is born afterwards, they have the same right view, they become disciples of the Buddha. And so either you are a Buddha, and then, of course, is the Buddha a Buddhist? I suppose the Buddha is a Buddhist. So, yeah, so there's nothing outside of these teachings, because these teachings are defined by that right view. And so you have that right view. And so anyone, any other teaching, because they tend to believe in things that are permanent, like a soul or a self or a God and all of these kind of things, it is actually impossible to believe in that God and also at the same time have insight into these teachings, because they overturn that idea of some permanent entity outside. So if you have that insight, by definition you are a Buddhist, and so that's why there is no one really outside. So you know that, right? You know that this is the truth, that no one outside can have this understanding. Okay. Then again, a noble disciple considers thus: do I possess the character of a person who possesses right view? What is the character of a person who possesses the right view? This is the character. Although they may commit some kind of offense for which you can be rehabilitated, you can kind of come out of it, still he at once, or they at once confess, reveal, and disclose that offense to a teacher or to a wise companion in the holy life. And having done that, they enter upon restraint for the future. Just as a young, tender infant lying down at once draws back when it puts his hand or his foot on a live coal. Live, in other words, a glowing coal. So too, that is the character of the person of right view. It's kind of this is really interesting, right? This shows you some idea what it means to be a stream enterer. Any flaw in your conduct, any bad speech you may have, any bad action, any bad thought is like a glowing coal. This is how you consider these things, yeah? You know it is dangerous, you know it is painful. There's no way you want to go there. And that is why your conduct becomes perfected. It is said that the stream mentor has paripunna. Paripunna means completed good conduct. They are complete in good conduct. Why? Because they don't want to pick up all these hot coals everywhere. Why on earth would you pick up a hot coal if you can avoid it? Yeah? So that is what the stream mentor is. For ordinary people, it is different. Because for ordinary people, there are all of these things that get in the way. Desires get in the way, right? Your desires are more important. So sometimes you're willing to lie or you're willing to cheat someone because your desires are what is really important to you. But for the stream mentor, the Dhamma is what is important. The desires don't matter. They would never lie because of desire. They would never lie because of ill will. They would never cheat someone because of cravings and these kind of things. Yeah. The first thing is always the Dhamma, because they know that if you do cheat someone, you're picking up a hot coal. That's what you're doing. You're burning yourself if you don't keep your precepts and if you don't live in the right way. You have some short-term advantage because you get something you want, but in the long run, you're burning yourself. Do you want to burn yourself, or do you want to kind of stay cool? Yeah, this is kind of the choice here, really. And so this is the idea. Or the sense of self. The sense of self very often gets in the way. You will notice here that the stream mentor is a humble person. Straight away you do something wrong, and you confess your bad conduct to someone else. Where most of us, we feel we've done something wrong. We feel a bit bad. We feel a bit ashamed. We don't want to confess to anyone. We want to keep the secret, right? Okay, don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anyone else about that I did this. Yeah, this is kind of bad. But for a stream mentor, that sense of self is no longer important. It is not about protecting your feeling, because you know that you are a good person anyway. And so for the stream mentor, straight away they reveal it. So are you that kind of person who is desperate to reveal it once you have done a mistake? Are you desperate to reveal a mistake straight away? If you're really keen, I have to reveal it straight away. Where is the nearest person? Okay, Venerable Visuddhacharya, I'll reveal to her straight away. Yeah, please allow me to reveal my mistake. Yeah, that is kind of the attitude, this urge, this powerful drive towards revealing what you have done, so you can let go of that burning coal straight away. But if you feel a little bit reluctant to reveal what you have done, well, then you know maybe you're not a stream mentor. It's a high bar, right? It's a really high bar. You can't have much ego or sense of self. The ego will get in the way. This, etc., etc. So this is the idea of the stream mentor. They can still make mistakes, and surprisingly, even arahants can make mistakes in the realm of because there are different kind of rules. Some rules that we have as monastics are not moral rules. They are more like rules like you cannot eat in the afternoon. There's nothing immoral about eating in the afternoon, yeah. But if you don't know that rule, or you forget it, or you probably don't forget it if you're an arahant, but if you, if you're the first offender or whatever, then you can break these things because they are conventions. They're not actually moral rules. Like not storing up food. Yeah, that's an interesting rule for monks. Not allowed to store up food from one. Nuns as well, bhikkhunis and bhikkhus, not allowed to store up food from one day to the next one. And the person who broke that rule first was an arahant. Yeah, because the arahant was so happy, he had some extra rice from after his meal. So instead of going for alms round the next day, he kind of dried the rice, and then he had it the next day. Yeah, and nothing wrong with that. That's not immoral. But the Buddha said, no, you can't do that. Yeah, you have to go into the village every day. Because the arahant, he just wanted to be peaceful. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, you get the general gist here. You are someone who discloses your faults because they are like coals. So remember that. Try to get your mind around that, understanding that any kind of immorality, any mistake you do is like a hot coal. You're burning only one person, and the person you're burning is yourself. All right. So that is the fourth knowledge that he has the character of a person who has right view. The next one, and now he has the same question one more time. Do I possess the character of a person who possesses right view? What is that character? It is as follows. Although he may be active in various matters for his companions in the holy life, yet he has a keen regard for the training in higher virtue, in the higher mind, and the higher wisdom, the adi sila, adi chitta, adi panya. Just as a cow with a new calf, while she grazes, she watches her calf. So too, that is the character of the person with right view. Yeah, and So if you have right view, what it means is that you never forget what is really important in life. Regardless of how busy you are, regardless of the duties that you are doing, the most important thing for you is always the Dhamma. That is always at the back of your mind, like an overseer that watches your conduct to make sure you're doing things in the right way. Always thinking about the Adisila, Adichitta, and Adipanya. Always being virtuous. Staying with a mind that is kind of pure, that is serene, not allowing yourself to be carried away. I always I hang out, when I hang out with Ajahn Brahm doesn't really want to be too involved. He kind of sits there, and he says that his mind is always kind of inclining towards samadhi. The sooner he can get away, he will go back to his kuti, and he will just go and be peaceful in his kuti again. Mind is always inclining towards that. This is kind of the idea here, always feeling that that is really what you want to do with your life. And beautiful simile, like the cow looking after a calf. Maybe like a mother with a young child, maybe even a father with a young child. If you have like a cow with a calf, the cow always looking with one eye towards the calf, right? She's grazing here and doing things and walking around, but one eye always on the calf, because the motherly feeling is so strong. Or you see a mother with a baby, the mother always has one eye on the baby. The baby never too far away. It's true, right? So if you try to get the attention from a mother with a baby, it's impossible to get the full attention because one eye always on the baby. That's the way it is. And that's right. That's the way it should be. And in exactly the same way, you always have the training there at the back of your mind. That is what is important. But you will notice that for most people, it isn't really like that. For most people, it is the worldly things that are more important very often. You completely forget about the Dhamma sometimes, You get so involved in your business and doing this or doing that or whatever it might be, that the Dhamma is long gone. And then you'd have to wait for another year to come back to Kadura Center, and the Dhamma comes back again. No, it's not. It doesn't take a full year, right? Sometimes of course, you remember. I'm sure most of you remember the Dhamma quite regularly. But it does also get lost sometimes, even for long stretches of the time. Many hours maybe is completely gone. Maybe sometimes for days even. I don't know what you're like, but maybe. So that is the idea. The Dhamma is number one. That is what matters, because that is what gives meaning. That is what gives long-term results. All the other stuff is temporary. All the other stuff comes and goes, and before you know it, you're dead anyway, and all of that stuff is completely meaningless, And then all that is left with you is the Dhamma. That's all you have when you die. That mental state that you die with, that is created by the Dhamma, by your practice, and that is what then matters. And so you get your priorities right. You understand what is really important in life. All right. Then we have the sixth knowledge. Again, a noble disciple considers thus: do I possess the strength of a person who has right view? And what is that strength? It is when the Dhamma and Vinaya, the Dhamma, the teaching and training proclaimed by the Buddha is being taught. You heed it, you listen, you give attention, you engage with your mind, and you hear the Dhamma with eager ears. The person who is a stream enterer, when they read the word of the Buddha, it's like, wow, okay, you fully engage. You will have noticed that when you read the suttas, suttas start off with Evang me sutang, thus have I heard. At one time the Buddha was staying in Savatthi, Anathapindika's monastery, etc. And then the Buddha will often say, bhikkhus, listen, I will speak. I will often start like that. Bhikkhus, listen, I will speak. And this is exactly what this is. Here's a reminder, now is coming a Dhamma talk. Now listen, pay heed. This is important. This is what life is all about. Forget everything else. Now comes the message you really want to hear. And so then if you are a stream mentor, you really listen. You really engage what is going on. You know from your ability to engage with the Dhamma, again, to what extent you have developed these things. So that is the sixth quality, this ability to really take on board the teachings. And then the last one of these seven, which is also called the strength of the stream enter, is as follows. When the Dhamma and training proclaimed by the Buddha is being taught, you gain inspiration in the meaning. You gain inspiration in the Dhamma. You gain gladness connected with the Dhamma. And so this is exactly what we have been talking about now. Yeah, this idea that when you reflect on the Dhamma in the right way, it gives rise precisely to this, the Atta Veda, the Dhamma Veda, the gladness, the Pamujja. Yeah, this is the strength of a stream enterer. A stream enterer, when they hear the Dhamma of the Buddha, they naturally get uplifted. This is why it is so nice to be a stream enterer. Yeah, you can just get kind of uplift and joy and happiness almost any time just by thinking about the Dhamma in the right way. And then, of course, the meditation works, and the whole thing takes off because of that. Yeah, so this is kind of the powers of the stream enterer. Why it is so kind of useful, yeah, to be a stream enterer. So it is recommended. Stream entry is recommended. This is kind of what the Buddha is saying here. So these are some of these qualities, some of the benefits, if you like, of stream entry. And it gives you some idea, whether you have these qualities or not. It also gives you some idea of how to look for other people. Do they have these qualities or don't they have these qualities? And it kind of allows you to gain more, again, to choose your teachers wisely in this world. Those people who have these kind of qualities. So that is some of the qualities of the stream enterer. There are many, many more that you find in the suttas. There's a large number of suttas that talk about stream entry in a variety of ways. And by seeing them, by kind of contemplating all of these things, again, you come closer to the idea of stream entry, or to understanding what it means. And just to give you one example right now, I'm going to talk more about this later on today, but we have a few minutes left, so I'll give you one more example of the idea of someone who is a stream enterer. Now, one of the things that is said in the suttas is that you become independent in the teaching of the Buddha. You are... what is the Pali word now? Anyway, anyway, it doesn't matter. So, but you don't know Pali anyway, so it doesn't really help you help you all that much. It's just you are independent of others in the teaching of the Buddha. And anisito, I think it is anisito of others, pare, anisito, something like that. And so what that means, is that someone who is a stream enterer tends to be a very independent person in this world. They are someone who goes their own way. Who does things because they know what is true. They don't need to ask anyone else, is this moral, is this right, is this wrong? They know that these things are true. And so this is kind of how you kind of get this incredible integrity, because you don't depend on what people around you think or whether they approve or not. Like I was saying yesterday, most of us, we are bound in the networks that we exist in. We are bound to other people in various ways. And if other people disapprove, it affects us in a certain way. But for the stream enterer, if you disapprove of the conduct, they just think you are a fool. Isn't that kind of nice? Or if someone disapproves, a stream enterer, someone disapproves of what I say, well, it's their problem because they're foolish. They don't understand, obviously. So you can't manipulate a stream enterer. If you try to manipulate them, they think you're an idiot, and they kind of just let you go. They don't think you're an idiot in a bad way. They just realize that you don't understand. That's what they realize. So you cannot manipulate that kind of person because they are independent. They are free of these kind of things. And that means that they are able to do things that most people in the world cannot do. To me, one of my great heroes in monastic life has always been Ajahn Brahm, because that's why I came to Australia, because of him. And he has always, to me, stood out as someone who has this kind of extraordinary ability to be independent. And sometimes if you try to manipulate Ajahn Brahm, he's going to reject that straight away. And Ajahn Brahm has this ability, for example, to ordain the bhikkhunis, yeah, and to say, well, if the whole world thinks ordaining bhikkhunis is wrong, I'm going to do it because I think it is right. And I remember when he came back from Thailand, when he went to Thailand, he was called to Thailand after ordaining these bhikkhunis in Perth. This was in 2009. It's 15 years ago now. And so he went to Thailand, and that's where they said, okay, we can't have anything more to do with you because you're ordaining bhikkhunis. So either you have to rescind those bhikkhunis, or we're going to have, you're going to have to let go of you. You're going to have to go your own way. And Ajahn Brahm thought, well, I cannot rescind this. I cannot undo what has been done. Once the ordination has been done by the Sangha, you can't undo that. So I can't rescind it. I can't let go of that. Bhikkhunis are bhikkhunis. And so he said, well, too late now, it's done. Yeah, so you have to stay. Well, in that case, okay, out you go. Yeah, you're no longer part of us. And that is very interesting, because most people, if you get rejected by all your friends, all the people who are closest to you, to your entire network, they will find that very traumatic and very difficult. Yeah, and so sometimes these things can be used as a means of getting power over you. Yeah, we will throw you out unless you do what we say. This is a way of controlling people. And the world is full of this kind of control. Everyone is controlled by these things to some extent or another, because we all belong to certain networks and certain groupings and certain nationalities or whatever have you. And so we are controlled by society to some extent. And so Ajahn Brahm then came back to Perth, and he was a little bit quiet, people said, after he come back from Thailand. Not kind of, a little bit more quiet than usual. And so I asked Ajahn Brahm, how did you feel about this, kind of getting, thrown out by all your friends saying, goodbye, go your own way. We don't want to have anything to do with you. How did you feel about that? And Ajahn Brahm told me, he said that I only had one thought. And that thought was, what I did, was it right or was it wrong? And then when I knew that it was right, I let it all go, just like that. Because that is the idea of understanding the Dhamma. Your only thing you're concerned about is whether you have done something wrong or something right. If you have done something wrong, then maybe the other people had a point, and then you bow down and you ask forgiveness. Yeah, also very easy for the stream mentor to do. But if you are right, then you are okay with that, and you are okay with being rejected by the people around you because the integrity is there. And this is one of those beautiful powers of a stream mentor, being independent of the whole world. And if the whole world rejects you, you will very happy go into the jungle and just meditate in the cave on your own, yeah? Because you don't really need anyone else. And so you meditate on your own. You go into the village. You go into Hong Kong. I'm not sure if Hong Kong is a village, but you go into the village on Pindabat, yeah? And then you kind of live in that independence anyway. So that is one of these qualities of the stream mentor. It's actually quite an interesting topic, so I want to talk more about this when we come back again after lunch. So in the meantime, enjoy, have a nice lunch, and then we'll see you back again in here at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, very good. So let's pay respect to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha.